Hi guys, it is Aoife from Fred Weasley Died Laughing and I'm here with another weekly wrap up. So I got a good few books read this week, books I really enjoyed and I can't wait to tell you all about them. The first book I read this week was one that I mentioned last week briefly, and that was Showstopper by Hayley. This is like a YA dystopian novel. It was really interesting, and it's basically where the world is separated into two different types of people. There are the pure people and the dregs, and the dregs live a very terrible life. They live in slums. There is actually this circus that a lot of dreg children end up getting taken into and they have to perform, but the circus is very much life and death. They have to do a lot of different things that could end up killing them at any moment. The watching audience almost wants them to die, like they are waiting for something full of blood and horror to happen. That's what they want. It's a little bit similar to the Hunger Games, in which, you know, it's for entertainment and the killing is for entertainment. Like, this is very similar in that sense, and this is the first book in a very long time that I've read that is similar to the Hunger Games but is original in its own sense as well. The story itself is very original, but it has the same kind of horror aspect and entertainment value as the Hunger Games. So this story focuses on two different teenagers. There is Ben, who is a pure, and there is Hashiko, who is a drag, and she is a trapeze artist in the circus. And Ben ends up going to the circus one day with his family and he sees Hashiko performing and he is just enamoured by her. He thinks she is beautiful, and it kind of starts him thinking about what the circus is and what the dregs are and what the pures are, and how like everyone isn't that different as to how he's taught. And he starts thinking just about how what he's been brainwashed into thinking his entire life, and he starts to realise that there's something wrong somewhere, and he starts thinking for himself at last, and it kind of ends up with him trying to save Hashiko from this really terrible situation that she's in. So I really enjoyed this. I just thought it was so original and so entertaining. It didn't shy away from any kind of horror aspects of it. Like, there is brutality in this, there is violence, there is death, and there is death and violence in children, because obviously this book is dealing with children in these situations, so there is all of that. So, you know, I enjoyed that the author wasn't afraid to go there, and it definitely kind of like raises questions and concerns. Like, this is all inspired by conversation that has been happening recently around like immigration, and it's kind of like a very extreme version of separation of these kind of cultures and separation of, you know, people who are born into privilege and people who are trying to escape into a life where they could live better, you know. And yeah, it's very interesting, and I did very much enjoy it, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Hexed by Olde Heuveult, and this is a book that has been talked a lot about in the last couple of months because it is a horror book. So a lot of people were reading it around October. I didn't get around to it till December, which is a bit odd, but this is basically about this town. This is originally, I think, a Dutch book, and it has been rewritten in English, so now it is set in a small American town where there is this witch that haunts this town, and there is this program in this town to try and basically stop outsiders from seeing this witch, and there is like a curse to the town as well. So if you come and you actually, you know, like buy a house in the town and decide to live in it, you basically can never leave it. People can never leave this town once they decide to live there, because if they decide to leave, if they leave even for like a long holiday, they'll start thinking suicidal thoughts. So a lot of people end up killing themselves. So there's just a lot of like restrictions around this town because of this witch, and she's like super scary. Like, she'll just like show up in like someone's living room while they're watching TV, and there's like an app. It's really interesting because there is this app where people are able to log in when they saw her, so people can kind of track where she is around the town. And I just think that was really clever. I liked how the author kind of brought in like the modern world and technology in with it, and how the teenagers kind of handle all of this, because this story is very much about the teenagers of the town and how the teenagers are sick and living with these restrictions, and how they're kind of trying to break free of it a little bit. And, you know, they don't have as much respect for the witch as kind of the older generation do, and that was all like pretty interesting. But she was just so creepy. Just the descriptions of her are just so creepy. Like, she has her lips sewn shut and her eyes sewed shut because she can like whisper things, and if you hear her whispering you want to kill yourself. So she's really dangerous. For the most part I really enjoyed this book, but there were some things in it that made me feel a little bit like about it. All the main characters in this are male. Like the the older males and teenage males, and there is not one like in the group of like teenagers that are like messing around with this witch and trying to kind of break free of the restrictions. They're all boys. There's not like one female friend in this group, which I thought was a bit like weird. I was like, surely there's like one female friend that they're like friends with that could like be involved with this. And then like the only main, I feel, female characters in this that had a voice or like had like a proper presence were the witch, who was obviously awful and really scary, and also this other character who wasn't particularly like a good character, and then like I don't know how the author did this, but he managed to like sexualize this witch. Like this witch got sexually assaulted at one point in this book. Like, she genuinely got sexually assaulted. They sexually assaulted this witch who, like, ew, for starters. And I don't know, I just, like, this witch is like a villain, or she is supposed to be a villain, and then they're sexually assaulting her, so you are just like so uncomfortable. And yeah, I was just a little bit like, oh, okay, like, so that happened. I didn't really know how to think and what to do about that. Like, I mean, there is characters there who are obviously completely against this and they don't like that it is happening and they feel wrong about it and they express their feelings about this, which is good. But at the same time, I don't think that needed to be in there. I don't think the sexualization of the witch, for starters, there was like always like a lot of comments about exactly how she looked, like exactly how her body looked, rather than just even just her face or her demeanor and stuff. There was a lot of commentary on her body. Like, sometimes other female characters, or like not even female characters but like females in passing, like one of the teenagers' girlfriends, the father was describing her, and he says that the girlfriend was one of those girls who was pretty, was naturally managed, it was something around the lines that she managed to be naturally pretty even though she didn't wear makeup, or even though she didn't wear a lot of makeup. And it was kind of like the way this sentence was structured, it kind of made it seem like, you know, oh my god, it was this amazing thing that this girl could be pretty even though she didn't wear makeup, as if women could only be pretty if they wore makeup. And yeah, I think like all of that could have been like, this is translated from Dutch into English, so that could have been a translation thing. I don't know. Other people have found the translations of this a little bit difficult, or, you know, it's still to their enjoyment. I don't think it did for me. I didn't find any problems or big problems with the translation, but maybe those particular bits could have been something down to the translation. I don't know, but those are just bits I didn't really like. So overall, I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The ending was definitely completely crazy, but I did enjoy it overall. This book I read was The Girl Who Was Saturday Night by Heather ONeill. This is a book I've been wanting to read for quite a long time, since I read The Lonely Hearts Hotel by Heather ONeill. I knew I wanted to read more of her stuff. So this one is about, it's mostly about this girl called Nushka. She lives in Quebec, and I think it's around like the 80s or 90s, and she has a twin brother called Nicholas, and her and her twin are very, very close. And this story is basically just about her growing up, and her father was like a bit famous in Quebec. He was a singer, and when her and her brother were younger, they used to be like on stage and on TV a lot because of their father. So they're kind of like this, like, they're not famous anymore, but people know who they are, and people are kind of like, they're kind of one of these kind of people who everybody loves, and they get away with everything because of who they are and who they used to be. And, you know, they're very kind of just charismatic and lovable, and they have these like really, really odd, eccentric personalities, but I kind of love that. So if anyone has read The Lonely Hearts Hotel, you'll know what I mean when I say that Heather ONeill's writing is really, really gritty. Like, she can talk about vulgar things and really gritty things, but at the same time she makes them sound really magical and really beautiful. And like, she talks about the terrible things without making them seem terrible, if that makes sense. And that's what I love about her writing. I just loved her writing in The Lonely Hearts Hotel, and I loved her writing in this. Like, her writing just like speaks to me. I just love the way she writes, just the way she's able to make these characters come alive. Like, she has these larger than life characters that just jump off the page, and they're just wonderful. I just really love them. I really, really love this. Gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was a short book, and that was The Space Between by Meg Gregan. I got this book in exchange for an honest review from Dublin UNESCO City of Literature Publishing, and this is beautiful, beautiful book. This is a book all in verse, as you can see here, and it is about a girl called Beth who has decided that she's not going to basically leave her house for an entire year, and we see her, she's suffering very, very deeply from anxiety. She's probably suffering from agoraphobia. Like, she starts being afraid to leave her house, not just it stops kind of being a personal decision, and it starts being just like a thing she can't do. She can't make herself do. She can't leave her house. She can't leave the safety of her house. And then one day this dog comes to her window, a dog called Mouse, and the owner of the dog comes afterwards, called Alice, and Beth is immediately enamored by Alice. She wants to be her friend. She wants to be a bit more than her friend, and we see the two of them like start this friendship and eventual relationship, and it kind of starts giving Beth the courage to think that maybe she can eventually leave the house, and maybe she can do more than what she is living at the moment, and it is just so beautiful. I just really, really love this. This is a book you can just like read in one sitting, in one night, because it's quite short. It is 170 pages. It is in verse, so you do get it through very, very quickly. But there are just some parts of this that just like took my breath away. Like sometimes when she is like, her anxiety is like really getting to her, and like I could feel myself just being like, it was almost like the words were screaming at me from the page, and like, you know, the way her thoughts must have been screaming at her, and I just loved that. I just thought it was just so powerful. And there's one particular passage in this, one particular verse that I just thought was so spot on about anxiety, and it's, what do you do when your brain is refusing to let you step outside while screaming that you aren't safe, that you need to run, you need to go? And I just thought that was like spot on. I just thought it was so clever. And then there's like one part where she's literally just telling herself to shut up. So like that is just all like the same word, like shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. And I just feel like as I said it in I was doing Zoe's 24-hour readathon, and I'll have the vlog up on Tuesday. I don't suffer from anxiety like very badly, but I feel like a lot of people who do suffer very badly from anxiety, or have done, they might find this book both possibly triggering, but also just they might get even more of it out of it than I did. And there's also like verses in this all about having your period. Like there's two or three pages in this which is all just descriptions of Beth having her period, and there's descriptions of blood and cramps and, you know, panty liners and pads, and I loved that. I was just like, yes, yes, yes for this inclusion. Loved it. So yeah, I'm all for periods in books, you know me. So yeah, I absolutely adored this. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really, really enjoyed it. And the last book I finished this week was Tangleweed and Brine by Deidre Sullivan, and this is, as I've said before, kind of a book of fairy tales rewritten, and they're very, very interesting. I really enjoyed them. There was some that didn't quite hit the spot for me. I wasn't really like the Red Riding Hood. I was kind of like, what? Like, I didn't really get it. And there was a couple of other ones that I was just like a little bit meh about, but there were some I really, really liked. Really, really liked the first one, which was Cinderella one. I really enjoyed that one. The Snow White one I thought was wonderful, because Snow White is a villain in that one. I thought that was very, very interesting. And another one I liked was Hansel and Gretel, which was all about like focused on the witch in Hansel and Gretel, and I loved that. It was kind of like her side of the story, and I really enjoyed that one. And another one I absolutely adored was The Frog Prince, and like the Frog Prince one, I was like, just the world that like Deidre Sullivan managed to create in like the few pages, like the 10 pages or whatever that was. I think it was even less than 10 pages. But the world that she managed to create in that tiny little story, I was like, I need like a whole series or at least a whole book on this world, because it was a fascinating world, and I was like, yeah, I just like, I need to know so much more. I need so much more in this world. The things I thought was really funny is like the only kind of love story in this is the Bluebeard story. So if people don't know the fairy tale of Bluebeard, it's that like he like kills all his wives and leaves all the bodies in this one room. So it was funny that the only love story ended up being the Bluebeard one. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars just because there were some stories that like didn't quite get for me, but most of them I did really, really love. I think my favourite one was probably the Frog Prince one, but I think it's probably It's probably almost a tie between the Snow White one and the Frog Prince one, but I think the Frog Prince one was just so like, I was like, I need to know more. It was probably my favourite one. So yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. Really, really enjoyed it. Definitely recommend it to people to read. So yeah. So that's everything that I've read this week. Please let me know what you guys think of the books I read. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you're reading. All the usual kind of stuff. And I will see you guys again next time.